Good morning. California exceptionalism. It's something I think that, especially when we talk about environmental regulations, about climate change, that we get used to. But on a day like today, we shouldn't act like it's normal. Because the signing of SB 100 really is about making history, showing California at the forefront not only of the United States, but the entire country, on ensuring that our future is one that's committed to renewable energy. My name is Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher, and I'm the Assemblywoman from the southernmost portion of our state. My job in this was fairly easy. All I had to do was get it off the assembly floor. And I want to thank, of course, our speaker for giving me the luxury of an entire day to do that during the close of session, which everybody knows that sometimes messes things up. But compared to the long, hard work of all the activists, of our governor who has led the way and continues to lead the way, and I think even out of office will continue to pressure us to lead the way, the funders and the people who really took this on early, and of course our Senator, Kevin De León, who worked on this bill exclusively for 2 years, but on this issue for his entire life. And so to be able to stand with everybody on this stage and take a part of this historic day, where we know what we're doing is showing our children, showing the entrepreneurs in California, showing people and skeptics throughout the nation that a state can lead. And while the Trump administration convinces people to buy dirtier power, California is going to continue to go in the opposite direction. With that, it's my pleasure to bring up Tom Steyer, who has a few words as well.
Thank you, Lorena. I want to talk very quickly about the two things that I think are going on today, which are truth and justice. As Lorena said, California is doing what actually needs to be done, which is making sure that by 2045 that the power sector is not contributing to climate change in any way. And that's a gigantic step forward by the 5th largest economy in the world. And it's a statement of really where our state stands in terms of world leadership. So let's talk for 1 second about our governor, Jerry Brown, in terms of world leadership. We're about to have the Global Climate Action Summit in California under his leadership. And so what this state is doing and what our governor has been doing is not just confined to what we're doing here, even though it's substantively incredibly important. Also from a leadership standpoint and a symbolic standpoint, what he's been doing and what he's been helping this entire state do is to reframe the way the world thinks about what's going on in terms of energy and climate, what's possible and what's necessary and what's just. The other word I want to talk about is environmental justice, because the difference in California from every other place I've ever been is we start when we talk about energy or climate or environment with the word justice. And in fact, what we see is this state has been using the energy policy not just to move towards clean energy, but also to redress the environmental injustice that has been foisted on our poor communities, our communities of color, for decades. And that is one of the reasons that, in fact, when you look at this stage, and in particular, when you look at the two people who led this bill, they are people from those communities. In fact, Kevin grew up in Barrio Logan, which is in Lorena's district, which is a poor community. And we've seen leadership from those communities, not just on this bill, but through the bills that I've been here for, where people have understood that to separate energy and justice is a gigantic mistake. We're talking about clean air and clean water for poor communities and communities of color, and we're talking about organized union jobs distributed throughout the state. And so that brings me to Kevin De León. Kevin has been an incredible champion of justice and energy in this state for years. The number of bills that he's led, the amount of insight that he's brought to this, and the amount of leadership that he's brought to this state and to the world is actually extraordinary. I think that he is somebody who determined very early on the connection between the justice for human beings in this state and the need for vision and leadership. And it's something that he's provided over a number of years that I think is extremely unusual. I think we wouldn't be in the place that we are today in terms of leadership if it hadn't been for Kevin DeLeon. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin, but I do think that we're looking at this stage of a group of people who have done something that nobody else has been able to do. And I think that this bill is a perfect example of the kind of leadership and effective government that this state has provided.
Well, good morning. I want to say thank you very much for the opportunity to share a few words with each and every one of you. I want to thank very much Lorena Gonzalez for her incredible leadership on the State Assembly floor. You were an excellent vote counter.
I've heard that before.
You helped us cross the finish line, and for that, I will forever be indebted to you. So I want to thank you very much. To my Senate colleagues and to my Assembly colleagues, to the members who are on the stage here today, Bill Quirk, Kevin McCarthy, Ken Cooley, as well as Todd Gloria and Eloise Reyes. I want to thank all of you very much for your strong, steadfast support from day one. And your engagement with our colleagues in the Assembly was very key in helping and assisting Lorena Gonzalez secure the necessary votes. I want to thank you very much because to my colleagues in the Assembly, this was a labor of love from both houses. Although the two letters SB are before 100, I would say this is a California State legislative bill. So I want to thank you very much. I want to thank my successor of the California State Senate, Toni Atkins, for her wonderful leadership and support. I want to give a very special thank you and a recognition to the Speaker, Anthony Rendon, for his leadership, for his facilitating the process to make sure that this measure passed from the Assembly floor. So I want to give very special recognition, and I recognize good leadership when I see it. And I want to thank Anthony Rendon. To my good friend Tom, you and I have been in many battles together. I know this won't be the last one. And we have really moved policies to the forefront, forcefully, to engage voters up and down the state of California on issues that we care deeply about that help improve the human condition. You're an individual who just doesn't talk the talk, but you walk the walk, and you have proven it. So I want to thank you very much for your incredible leadership, not just for the state of California, but for the entire country. So thank you very much, my friend Tom. Now, today is a historic day. Today, California sends an unmistakable message to the nation and the world. Regardless of who occupies the White House, California will always lead on climate change. Here in California, Democrats and Republicans agree. Climate change is real. It's here, it's deadly, and it's extraordinarily expensive. We are building a bolder future, one with a 100% clean energy grid. A grid that won't poison our children or our planet. 100% clean energy isn't just critical to save our planet. It will unleash and create business opportunities to catalyze the necessary capital that we need to create the vital technologies that are absolutely needed to make sure that we meet our ambitious target goals. And this will also create tens of thousands of jobs, putting Californians to work. We already have 10 times more jobs in the clean energy space in California. That is 10 times more jobs in clean energy space in California than there are coal mining jobs in all of America. So we're going to accelerate that pace and put the metal to the pedal. Now, I've been here several times before. Together with the governor, we were at Griffith Park for Senate Bill 350, where we took California to 50% RPS, renewable energy. We continued taking unprecedented steps by enacting Senate Bill 32, as well as extending our cap and trade system and building more parks and communities together. But today feels extra special. It feels special not just because these are the last days to serve in the August body for some of us, but today we're setting a marker that will be remembered by future generations. We're taking bold action when our country seems to be drifting. It is because of California and because of Californians we can pursue science and fact-based policies to help solve the problems of today. It is because of California we can tackle climate change. Californians have made their voices heard loudly about the future that they want for their state, for the country, and for the world. And today we're taking the necessary steps to heed their call. Now, 3 years ago, I worked with Governor Brown to pass Senate Bill 350, 50% energy by the year 2030. That legislation, we increased it, as I stated, to 50% by the year 2030. As the world's 5th largest economy, we cannot surrender our clean energy future to any other nation, because as Californians, we're going to shape and drive that future. Now, before I close, I want to thank the many environmental, labor, public health, and faith leaders who helped make this passage of this landmark legislation possible. But I also want to thank some very special people. I want to thank Governor Brown's legislative team. I want to thank them very much for helping get this measure across the finish line. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank my staff, but 2 staff members in particular. My Chief of Staff, Dan Reeves, and my policy advisor when it comes to climate change and environment, Kip Lipper. Both you, Kip, and Dan were very instrumental from day one. And for that, I'll always be highly appreciative of you and all of my staff members, both here in the Capitol as well as the district office. I want to also recall one of the finest public servants I have ever had the pleasure of working with, Nancy McFadden. Nancy McFadden is not here with us today, but Nancy McFadden would have played a pivotal role, as she has on every policy measure when it deals with climate and the environment. So I want to recognize her and give her the respect that she deserves. She's playing a huge role in SB 100. And lastly, I want to thank the governor. Governor Jerry Brown, you and I have accomplished many things together, from SB 1 to Senate Bill 32 to the extension of cap and trade to Senate Bill 350. We have had an incredible ride together. It's a journey that, quite frankly, would not have been possible had you and I not worked together. The leadership that you have demonstrated, not just for us in California, but for the entire nation and for the world, is exemplary. And for that, we owe you the debt, a great debt of gratitude for your leadership. You have shown us the way. You have provided that bold, courageous leadership, the courage of your convictions to do the right thing and to push and to actually take on the establishment authority, the status quo, to make sure we do right by California. I want to thank you very much for your incredible leadership. With that, it brings me great pleasure, and it is an incredible honor to bring up the greatest governor in the history of the state of California, the greatest governor in the United States of America, Governor Jerry Brown.
Thank you. Well, with that level in encomium, I will accept the nomination. Anyway, I want to thank everybody here has done really important work. And there's no understating the importance of this measure. SB 100 is sending a message to California and to the world that we're going to meet the Paris Agreement, and we're going to continue down that path to transition our economy to zero emission, zero carbon emission, and to have the resiliency and the sustainability that science tells us we must achieve. This bill and the executive order that I'm going to sign will put California on a path to the goals to meet the Paris Agreement and beyond. It's not going to be easy, and it will not be immediate, but it must be done. California is committed to doing whatever is necessary to meet the existential threat of climate change. And yes, it is an existential threat. No matter what the naysayers may say, it is a real present danger to California and to the people of the world. This bill and others I'm going to sign this week help us go in this direction. But have no illusions. California and the rest of the world have miles to go before we achieve zero carbon emissions. But you have to begin. You have to get something done. California has been doing stuff that the rest of the world, most of the world, is just hoping they might get to someday. And I want to say, Kevin, your 350 bill that put a cap on the carbon emissions and set a goal, that put everything else in the category of the possible. Without that, we wouldn't be here. So this is not a one-off. This is a series of actions that are leading California in the right direction. Are we in the promised land? By no means. Do we have a long way to go? Yes. The investments needed across broad sectors, the industrial sector, transportation, commercial, residential buildings, agriculture, and ultimately sequestration of carbon and efficient and low-cost battery technology. We have to do all of that, but we have to at least have the goal. We have to know where we are and where we're going. And California is uniquely in that position. So I very proudly stand with the legislators and the activists who have said, this is the way to go. And sure enough, we're going there. So let's get the bill out and get it done. Carbon emissions. So first, SB 100. Without Lorena, this bill would not be here. But without you, it wouldn't be here either. So we all play our part. All right. This is the executive order, which you can read at your leisure. It's well written and revised many times. Maybe should we give that? Yes. We should give Steyer something. Give me another pen. All right, we have another pen.
Here's a couple more.
Oh, yeah, let me get this. Good idea. Good idea. All right. Yeah, we'll sign a few more and we can fight it. You, Kevin, I'm giving it to you. You make the tough calls. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, go this way. If you want individual interviews with the advocates first, Governor Brown's gonna go do some interviews, including with almost all of your outlets.